Hello there, my name is David Pustansky and welcome to this review of the Bitmap Brothers collection for the Evercade. So whether you were going to play it on the original Evercade handheld system or if you're going to play it on the fancy new Evercade VS home console, then let's break down whether you should get this collection and whether it's a good one to have. Boom, here we go. So, looking at the Evercade collection of the Bitmap Brothers Collection 1, is this a game that you want to have? What's on it? Now, if you don't know who the Bitmap Brothers are, they're almost like legendary developers who develop games from the late 80s throughout the 90s and then kind of disappeared after the early 2000s. So on here we have some of the cream of the games they ever put out, because honestly all of their games were very well received. And what we have here is we have Speedball, Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe, and we have Speedball 2100. 3 Speedball games, but that's not all. After that we have Xenon 2 Megablast, and we have the game which I'm most interested in this collection, and that is the Chaos Engine. So we're going to start with the Chaos Engine. I can't put over this game enough. I really loved this game back in the day. It was one of these games, I had it on the Amiga, and you'd have like 2 characters working as a team. You'd play as one of them and you'd go around shooting monsters that would just spawn out of thin air. It got a very steampunk aesthetic, and you'd be picking up keys, picking up money, and you'd be like finding bombs that would shoot out everywhere, and you'd be going through all kinds of interesting locations like ruins and forests, and had a very, like I say, steampunk aesthetic. There was a character I always liked to play as, and you'd be able to choose your pair of 2 characters from, I think, a selection of 6. Is it 6? The Chaos Engine 2 may have only had 4, but either way, I think it's 6 on the original game. One of them always, just to me, looked like Razor Ramon from the WWF, and another one was like this crazy wild-eyed guy, like with a bald head, and then you've got like these steampunk goggles on. And so there were some very cool characters. You'd pick up money, and in between levels you'd be able to upgrade your character's skills, be able to upgrade weapons, and it was just a really fun game. Like, I can't put over how the graphics created really cool sense of atmosphere, that just as you'd go around the levels you'd always be worried about like where are some monsters going to spawn next and how you're going to be able to take them all on. Now, I've been waiting for many years for there to be like a remake, a remaster, or a re-release of the Chaos Engine, and we've barely got anything. The Bitmap Brothers, I think, did a few years ago put out a version on the PC, which I got, and at the time they said that they wanted to put out the game as they made it, without it being like remade with like HD graphics or whatever, so it was still the original game. Now, that was very cool because the original game was very good, and I don't think that I think it was literally on PC. I don't think you could get it on any console. So the fact that you can now get the Chaos Engine on here, it's still the original game, and I think this is taken from the Mega Drive / Genesis version. And there is one bells and whistles addition to this version, which I think makes this the best version of the Chaos Engine that you can play, and that is that the Evercade can do save states. Yes, so like the Chaos Engine is a challenging game, and especially just like having to play a game all the way through, like in modern times, may feel a bit of like a long stretch sitting there, and especially if you just like to play games for a little while in handheld mode. The idea that you can save your game and pick it up later is something which is very much appreciated. It's also useful in case you make like a silly error, or just like run into like a crowd of these like hulking monsters that come at you and get killed, so you can go back and have a do-over. Also on this collection, as well as the Chaos Engine, is Xenon 2 Megablast. Now, we can question why wasn't there Xenon 1, and we will speak a little bit about what isn't there and what we could potentially get from a Collection 2 of the Bitmap Brothers. But we get Xenon 2 Megablast, which is a vertical shooter, and it's a very cool game. I think I played it probably back in the day on the Amiga, but I'm not 100% certain because there were a lot of vertical shooters that you could get on that system. But this is a very good one. Once again, it's a bit of a challenging game, especially like for playing things in modern times where like vertical shooters and just like games from the past can feel a bit more punishing. But again, being able to save is very good. Once again, it's got the very detailed graphics. This is something about the Bitmap Brothers games, is that they've always got like lots of detail and very interesting graphics to look at, and they kind of create like an immersive world that you can really get into. But the thing about Xenon, which is really cool, is like a little bit like on the Chaos Engine, you can upgrade weapons and stuff in between levels, and so I'd definitely say that that is a good game in the collection as well. But then we come to the Speedball Trilogy, all of which is available on the Bitmap Brothers collection. Now here's the thing, Speedball is a futuristic sport which is kind of a bit like football, well, a bit like soccer, but like indoor soccer, but instead of using your feet to kick, you're like picking up and throwing the ball. You can throw it through like the side of the wall and it appears somewhere else, a little bit like on Pac-Man. You can bounce the ball off the side of the arena walls, and it's meant to be a bit more violent. You can imagine it as a sport that would have existed in the world of the movie The Running Man, for example. So just like this over like violent sort of like roided up guys just going and like smashing each other. The original Speedball, I believe it's the Sega Master System version that we get on here. Mainly just going by the box art, I don't know if you can see it there, kind of looks like the box art from the Master System version. And it's cool, like the game, like I say, you're bouncing the ball around. It's quite a fast game as a sport, like a sports title. You have one player who's like a goalkeeper, and you're passing the ball and trying to score the points for the length of the match. So it's a fictional sport, and the problem with this collection is that we then get Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe here as well. And then we get the PlayStation game, which was Speedball 2100, which takes everything that was good about the second game and gives it 3D graphics. Maybe the gameplay slightly slower, slightly more clunky maybe. I know some people prefer the second one, but for me, just for the idea of playing through all of these games, I was smart in that I started with Speedball 1, got into it, graduated up to Speedball 2, and then went on to the 3D Speedball 2100. But this is the problem, if you've got 3 games all based on a sport, even a fictional sport, you can see the improvements from game to game to game, and then it makes it a little bit more difficult to want to go back to the older games. Now, Speedball 2 was a really good game, and it came out on the Amiga, Atari ST, Sega Mega Drive, maybe some other platforms, and probably once again this is going to be like a Mega Drive or Super Nintendo version that we've got here on the Evercade collection. And whilst the game is very good in terms of that it plays really well, is probably the pinnacle of the series, then having it in 3D with extra upgrades and things that you couldn't do on the second one, by the time you get to the second and third games, you're probably going to say like, well, to be honest, it's a bit hard to go back to the original Speedball. The thing I would liken it to is if there was that you get a collection of the FIFA football games, and say you had like FIFA 2010, FIFA 2011 and FIFA 2012. It's like, why would I go back and play FIFA 2011 if I can play 12? Certainly, why would I go back and play like FIFA 2010? It's just like they're so similar, and they're basically just a sport, so that it doesn't really change. Like the graphics are obviously different between the different versions, but if you had like the original FIFA International Soccer, FIFA 95, FIFA 96 and FIFA 97, you'd be like, why do I want to play all of the older versions when the newer ones have got better graphics and like better gameplay mechanics, more bells and whistles, when it's all essentially just the same sport? Now, some of you may really be into Speedball and think, oh no, I love playing the original, or they messed it up on the sequel, or whatever, and you might appreciate having all of them here. I enjoy Speedball, and I remember playing Speedball and Speedball 2 back in the day, but for me, having 3 Speedball games out of the 5 games in this collection felt a little bit of overkill. So for me, if it was that there were 10 games on this collection and 3 of them were Speedball, I'd probably still comment that, well, why are 3 of them Speedball? But at least there'd be other games on there as well. If we've got Chaos Engine 2 and if we've got Xenon 1, then it would have felt like, well, they're giving us all the Xenon, all the Chaos Engine and all the Speedball games, and that would have felt fine. And maybe if we'd got a couple of the other games, I'm trying to think what they'd done, Bitmap Brothers, Cadaver, I believe, is one of their games, and Gods, and I think there was a platform game, I forget what it was. Oh yeah, Magic Pockets was another game that they put out, and there was a few other games. They did the game Z, and there was a sequel to Z, and these did go into like the 3D era, the era of like the PlayStation or PlayStation 2, and it would have been cool if some of these had been included on the Bitmap Brothers collection as well. If we get a Bitmap Brothers collection 2, I think that's where we'll get Xenon, that's where we'll get Chaos Engine 2. The only problem is from my understanding, because especially in the case of Chaos Engine 2, I believe it was only available on the Amiga, and I don't know that we've ever had any Amiga ports onto any of the Evercade collections. It may be a licensing issue, there may be some technical difficulty, but like one day I'd love to see Chaos Engine 2 get new life, and it would be great to get it. It would have been great to have got Chaos Engine 1 and 2 on here, but I can understand that if they are going to do a second collection, that would be like the crown jewel in that, just as the original Chaos Engine is the crown jewel in this collection here. So basically, should you get it? And the answer is yes, get it just for the Chaos Engine. If nothing else, the Chaos Engine is a fantastic game. Now, if you've not played the Chaos Engine, then I'd say definitely pick it up. Trust me, it's a really fun game. If you have played the Chaos Engine and it just wasn't your bag, then I'd say don't bother getting this. Like, if you love Speedball, then great, but I think you're going to really need to love Speedball to get the most out of this, just because there are 3 out of the 5 games are Speedball games. Xenon's a great game, Chaos Engine's a great game, Speedball games are fun as well, but like, I'll be honest, like, I could have just been happy with Speedball 2. It was quite cool to have like a PlayStation era 3D game on the Evercade as well, and it worked really well, just in terms of I didn't see any problems with the emulation, and it was like cool to be able to play a 3D game on the Evercade. So I really hope we see a lot more of those in the future. So that's going to wrap things up today for the Bitmap Brothers Collection 1 review for the Evercade. Now, we've got loads of reviews of Evercade games that we're doing on the channel. I've basically got all of the different collections, so we're reviewing them bit by bit by bit. A few weeks ago we put out a review of the Evercade VS console, and it was a pretty in-depth review, and a load of you have checked it out, so do continue to check it out. Smash that subscribe button, because we're going to have tons and tons more stuff. We've also just put out a review of the Atari VCS, and so I like having some of these retro themed or niche gaming consoles that we can dig into, because not tons of people are talking about them, and I just think if we get more people on board with the Evercade and the Atari and some of these other things, like, we're going to have loads of content about modern games as well. But for now, smash that subscribe button. My name is David Pustansky, and ciao for now. Boom.